if I told you that Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, believed that the world was about to end in his own lifetime? This sort of doctrine can even be found in the sayings and the teachings of the Prophet. For instance, if you go to Sahih Muslim 2950, we are told from the Prophet himself, I, in the last hour, are close to each other like this, and he, in order to explain it, pointed by joining his forefinger, the one next to the thumb, and the middle finger together. Prophet Muhammad said that he in the last hour are as close as his two fingers being joined together. Now, I don't know if your fingers are 1400 years apart from each other, but Prophet Muhammad's fingers must have been. Because in this hadith, Muhammad directly places himself at the edge of the end time, saying that he and the last hour are like this, joining his two fingers together and showing his fingers to the believers. This sort of action must have shown that the Prophet believed that the hour was approaching. Second of all, look at the Quran and how it presents Muhammad. If we are led to believe in chapter 54 verse 1, where it tells us, the hour has come near and the moon has split. And we are told from early Muslim sources that this is about Muhammad. Abbas tells us, and from this narration on the authority of Ibn Abbas, that he said, in the interpretation of Allah's saying, the hour is drawn nigh, he says, the coming of the hour is drawn nigh by the advent of Muhammad, and the coming down of the smock, the moon was rent in twain. This is also another sign of the closeness of the judgment day, happening during the time of the Prophet. Now notice the grammatical structure of this ayah. It tells us that the hour has drawn near. Not will draw near, but it has drawn near. It's presented as if it's approaching right then and there. Then it goes on to say, the moon has split. And we're led to believe that this cosmic event is tied directly to the nearness of the end of times coming upon us. And this was done during Muhammad's time, we're told, from early Muslims. Now here's the thing, if this miracle already happened, and it was a sign of the hour, then logically, people at that time would expect the end of times to begin soon. Not 1400 years later, but here we are, waiting. So to us observers, this should force a question upon us. Did Muhammad believe the hour was right around the corner? And if so, what happened? Why did it not come? Another thing that I would like to address is that the Quran itself never addresses or even hints at two separate moon splittings. Like the Muslims want to say that there's one in the past and one that will happen in the future. So there's no mention of the moon being split again. The continuity within the Quran never suggests that the moon splitting events will be repeated in the future. This idea is a later interpretation that has been later added into the Islamic belief system. Not something that Quran actually forces upon the Muslims, but actually something that the Muslims have came up with to reconcile with this. So if the Quran intended the moon splitting as a warning that the hour was near and that hour never came, that raises some serious questions, and this leads Muslims to come up with the second moon splitting narrative, the repeated moon splitting narrative that they force upon the Quran through interpretation. In another verse, we are told in Surah 21, Ayah 1, Nigh unto men has drawn their reckoning, while they in headliness are yet turning away. The verse doesn't tell us the hour might come, or the hour will come. It says that it has drawn near. It's present, indicating that the event is already approaching in such a way that the people's expectations should have been alerted. It's not saying that the end of times will come centuries later or a millennia later. The people in the verse, the Quraysh, right, Muhammad's observers, are not told to prepare for a distant apocalypse. Rather, it's quite the contrary. They're told that they're ignoring something that is approaching them, their reckoning. That is the hour to come. And again, this begs the question, if the Quran supposedly comes from an all-knowing God, and he describes the end time as near in the 7th century, and 1400 years later in the 21st century, and it still hasn't arrived, that again is a serious problem that Islam has on its hands then. The hour wasn't actually near at all. It's misleading. 21 verse 1 of the Quran supports the case that early Islam genuinely expected the end to come soon after Muhammad. And such a doctrine that a delayed apocalypse and the doctrine that there's a second moon splitting is developed later, right? When that previous expectation failed. In another hadith, we are told about how a tribe would move around a pagan shrine called the Dul Kalaza, which was a pagan temple. In this one hadith, it tells us that the prophet has made a prophecy about the end times that was involved with these people. He said, the hour will not come until the buttocks of the woman of Daus waggle round the Dul Kalaza. The Dul Kalaza was the idol of Daus, which they worshipped in the pre-Islamic period. Within the traditions of Sahih al-Bukhari, we are told, in the pre-Islamic period of ignorance, there was a house of Dul Kalaza, or Al-Kaaba. The prophet said to me, won't you relieve me from Dul Kalaza? So I set out with 150 riders, and we dismantled it and killed whoever was present there. Then I came to the Prophet and informed him, and he invoked good upon us. In this hadith, again, we have Muhammad blessing murderers who killed whoever they found at this pagan temple. In these two hadiths, you can see that the Prophet made a specific end times prophecy about the pagan shrine that we know as Dul Kalaza, which was referred to as the Kaaba of Yemen. In authentic narrations of hadiths like Sahih al-Bukhari, we found that Muhammad foretold that in the end times, a group would circle the Dul Kalaza before it was destroyed. And this would be the sign of the end times, a revival of paganism, people worshipping a pagan shrine. But the most significant thing about this is that before his death, Muhammad sent his own companion to destroy that temple. So the temple was already literally destroyed, physically destroyed during Muhammad's lifetime. Yet that very temple had to be standing for a sign of the end times. Because if Muhammad believed that there would be some sort of revive in paganism towards this pagan site at the end times, and then had it immediately destroyed, that suggests that he believed the end times were nearer, possibly in the lifetime of his companions. Well, I mean, that would have to be the direct conclusion. To engrave my case, I made a formal argument. Premise 1. According to Sahih al-Bukhari, the Prophet Muhammad foretold that one of the signs of the hour would be that the women of the tribe of Daus would dance around and worship Dul Kalaza, a pre-Islamic idol. Premise 2. In another hadith, also in Sahih al-Bukhari, Muhammad ordered that the Dul Kalaza was to be destroyed. This was carried out by Jarir ibn Abdullah al-Bajali during the Prophet's lifetime. Premise 3. A prophet who expects the fulfillment of a sign centuries after his death would not logically take urgent personal military action against the sign's condition, in this case, the idol, as such a prophecy would be temporarily distant and not require immediate intervention. Conclusion. Therefore, Muhammad's prophecy about Dul Kalaza combined with his decision to destroy it indicates that he expected the signs of the end times to begin unfolding within or shortly after his lifetime. Another verse in the Quran that addresses this topic would be Quran 46 verse 9, where it says, "Say, I am not something original among the messengers, nor do I know what will be done with me or with you. I only follow that which is revealed to me, and I am not but a clear warner." We have to make note that the Quraysh and other skeptics have challenged Muhammad to perform miracles. In multiple verses, we have the Quran deflecting these demands, emphasizing that Muhammad's role is only of a messenger and a warner. The reason why this is important is because, what is he a warner of? The end times. Throughout this video, we've seen that Muhammad merely didn't warn us of a distant apocalypse. He saw himself as the final warner, standing shoulder to shoulder with the hour itself have you. The only recorded miracle that we have of Muhammad in the Quran is the splitting of the moon. So yes, he pointed to signs, like splitting the moon, saying that your lives are near reckoning, to the observers listening to his message during his lifetime. He destroyed symbols that can only be standing at the end of times, and this all made it clear that the end was near. If you can gather anything from this video, is that time itself refutes Islam. If time itself refuted the prophecies of the end times being near, of that being a misleading statement, making the Muslims having to interpret a whole new repeating event of the moon split, if time itself has refuted all of that, what does that have to say about the Prophet? And I'll leave that question with you until the next one. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you around.